Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Triangle Offense. I'm Munish, as always joined by Nishant. The Lakers have now dropped to the third spot in the Western Conference. We'll talk about the team that replaced them in the second spot, the Phoenix Suns. They've been silently sitting there in the fourth spot all this while, and now they make the leap. This team is amazing, isn't it? I mean, they have a bunch of scorers. They have 7 players on double-digit average. Where do you think this Phoenix Suns team is going? Because if you remember earlier in the season, I rated them pretty highly.
Yep.
And I really think they are a fun team to watch. I really think they can even beat the Clippers in a 7-game series just because the Clippers don't know the starting five. Phoenix Suns know the starting five and also the bench and the replacement players
That's
and all
true.
of that.
Yeah.
So I really like the Phoenix Suns. Do you have the same opinion?
I'm not sure yet on the playoff situation. We were discussing this with Amit Doshi yesterday, right? Where
Yep.
Chris Paul being on your team lends you some instant respect, especially in the playoffs. But it's still going to be a lot to overcome because their greatest asset could be their undoing. Could be. I mean, we could be reading this entirely wrong, but it's possible that inexperience counts in the playoffs and it counts against you. Why this team is so intriguing is because they have possibly the most loaded embarrassment of young talent in the league. In one franchise, this is it. Like there are other franchises where you have one, maybe two young superstars and then a lot of big part players. Phoenix has nobody quite on that level yet, except Devin Booker, but they've got so much could potentially start on a bunch of teams type talent well into their roster, even on the bench.
Yep.
And that's really intriguing, right? And that's their strength and their biggest challenge come playoff times. So that's where I'm not entirely sold yet. I really want to see them in the postseason and see how they perform, see how they defend, see how they score against that defense. I have no doubt Devin Booker can sort it out. Chris Paul probably will turn up as always. He's sort of like Rondo in that regard. But the other guys, Ayton, when he starts getting more heat, Mikal Bridges, how's he going to perform in the playoffs? So Cam Johnson, those are a lot of ifs, and usually the playoffs are a bit much for a lot of young players. So it could go either way. That's the only concern I have. But otherwise, this is an outstanding team, a top 10 offense in the league, top 5, maybe top 6 defense in the league. They can shoot the three, they can stretch you inside and out, shoot off the dribble. Multiple players can, and their dependency isn't skewed on any one player in terms of points production. Maybe in terms of play style, but certainly not points production. 6-7 players in double digits. I mean, come on. Even against the Lakers, right? Who it's kind of like they rubbed salt into the wound because they didn't just pass up the Lakers on the league rankings. They did it by beating the Lakers in the process, and they did so without Devin Booker being there for the last 1.5 quarters or so after just a laughable ejection from the refs, and they did so with I think 5 or 6 players that scored 15 plus points in that game, including D-Book in like 3.5 quarters. So that's a statement.
That's exactly what is getting to. And I'm not looking too much into yesterday's game because everyone had an off night at the Lakers.
Sure.
They were missing a couple of stars. LeBron went off for 38, no doubt, but KCP was not getting anything going. Kuzma missed the game. Schroeder had an off night as well. So I wouldn't look too much into this game. I think it was an off night for Lakers. Lakers are really the powerhouse still, I believe. But with Phoenix, I like the team only because of the depth. You said that, right? 25 points is what Booker averages. That's very less compared to say what Steph Curry averages at the Warriors or Dame Lillard averages at the Portland Trailblazers, right? So I like how the team is distributed. But when you talk about the Phoenix Suns, you got to talk about Chris Paul. How good has he been? And this is look at his career resume. Every team he's gone to, he's improved that team by a distance. Be it at the Hornets, be it at the Rockets last season, and
OKC.
even this year. OKC last season, sorry. Rockets before that. OKC last season, they almost pulled off a surprise win against the Rockets as well. So Chris Paul, you got to trust this guy. I mean, when he signed for Phoenix Suns, we were not too happy. We decided, he's going to a team that's giving more money, not really a chance for a chip. But I think now we look at it retrospectively, and they look like that looks like a really good decision, doesn't it?
I still don't agree. If the ambition was to win the chip, then I don't think this was the best decision at all. I don't think, even if you fancy them in the playoffs, I don't fancy them to come out of the West no matter what. They might be beating the Clippers. They're good for one upset. I think I've said this before. They're good for one upset in the playoffs. I don't think they're going all the way. I don't think they can beat the Clippers and then also either the Lakers or the Jazz. I don't see that happening. So I'm gonna hold that against Chris Paul if winning the championship was the objective. But he never said it was. We just assumed, and the whole world just assumed, that every player with a certain level of talent just always wants to go where there's a chip. Maybe he's here for the long run, but is he? Because his contract expires at the end of the season. So maybe he's off to another restoration project somewhere. Maybe this is how Chris Paul ends his career. Who knows? So I still think this wasn't the best possible move if a chip was what he was after. But hey, there's nothing wrong in picking up a project like this and saying I want to impact a team that could desperately use my mentoring and have a superstar that could become the next big thing. And all he needs is a little push from me. So I'm okay with the Chris Paul move. And you're very right, though. He does make teams better. I don't want to hate on Russell Westbrook, but he's not been having the greatest track record of late with all of the selfish accusations. And even in the Wizards, it looks like you get the sense maybe Bradley Beal's better off without Westbrook. Maybe if had John Wall been here, who would have been a little more supportive of Beal's game and a little more pliable to fit into the team's ways and schemes and means of working, that would have been better for them. So Chris Paul undoubtedly, and I still haven't forgiven the late great Adam Silver for vetoing that damn trade in 2012 that could have sent Chris Paul to Kobe and the Lakers, and that really speaks to the value of the man.
Yeah, and coming back to Phoenix Sun, this was a team that was about to explode, wasn't it? I mean, they did not make the playoffs last season, but if you remember, they had this great run in the bubble, 8-0, I think they went, and they were that good. And the addition of Chris Paul really pushed them to the next level, didn't it? Because if you look at the stats, this is what it means. They are 29th on pace. So what does Chris Paul gets the ball, he slows down the entire game. Takes his time, but finds an open man. And if you look at it, Mikal Bridges is shooting 43% from 3. Jay Crowder is shooting everything that he gets. Cam Johnson is balling it out. Devin Booker is always good. And what does Chris Paul do? He slows down the game, finds the open man, and all of these guys get this catch and shoot. So every one of them are so good from 3. I mean, look at Devin Booker. He's good from 3. Yeah. Mikal Bridges is averaging 42%, like I said. Crowder is good from 3. Saric is hitting 3s. Cam Payne, Cam Johnson, both of those guys are good from 3 as well. So this is a team that can really shoot.
Yeah, it can. And it's interesting, right? The only other guy that straight up comes to mind when you talk about eating up the shot clock just for the sake of finding the best possible play is LeBron, right? How many times have we not lamented just the time it takes per possession to figure out what the play is? But he is really figuring it out actively. He's calling plays, he's calling screens, making people move. And Chris Paul's a lot like that. It's a very old school approach to basketball versus this now frenzied, just push players on transition, get players spacing, get shooters on the perimeter, and boom, 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 get a ball to somebody, take a shot. It's the antithesis of that approach, and the most comical kind of tragic culmination of that approach is what the Denver Nuggets did the other day. Like all they needed was a 2 to tie on a fast break. 4 players went there, and all 4 of them lined up on the perimeter. They missed the shot and they screwed up the game. Right? That's really how the modern game has become. So could probably CP3, maybe Rondo and LeBron are like remnants of a dying art and the last practitioners of it. But I want to talk about these youngsters, right? All of the people around Chris Paul. So he slows it down, he gets good shots for them. But look at this. When I say embarrassment of riches, right, for the Phoenix Suns, we know Devin Booker is young and up and coming. He's not Zion young, but he's young. And he's going to get exponentially better year on year. It's kind of like how you would expect Donovan Mitchell, all of these other guys also to grow at the same pace. And then you've got DeAndre Ayton, who really injuries robbed him of a bit of time. And then he's come back and he's looked very impressive over the last 2 seasons. He's only 22. Like Ayton's 22. I don't know if people realize it. He's just 22. Then you've got Mikal Bridges, who I would argue is the 3rd best player right now, not Ayton, on the Phoenix Suns. And he's 24. He's got a while ahead of him, and they've got contract space too. They've all got them for 2 years or more at Phoenix. Then you've got Cam Johnson, who was he the 11th pick? Was he in the 2019 draft, which a lot of people said was ridiculously high for a player whose only real asset is that he can shoot, and it's not like he's a Klay Thompson, so that's a lot to give up for the 11th round pick. But they got him, and he again came back from some injuries and. Tell you what, he looks like a legit 3-and-D player. And And the challenge is sometimes when you pick up somebody that high up in the draft, you almost force yourself to justify it by giving him a role that 11th pick would warrant, which probably isn't the best thing for them to do. I think he's a 3-and-D guy, and until proven otherwise, they should deploy him and use him as a 3-and-D guy and one of the better on-ball and off-ball defenders that they have in their setup. Then they've got Jalen Smith, 20 years old, Tyshawn Alexander, 20 years old. This team, the upside for this team is incredible. And in that sense, probably Chris Paul went to the place where he could have maximum impact because the number of careers he can influence and shape it is more at Phoenix than anywhere else in the NBA.
Absolutely. I mean, I see him staying longer if this run continues, and I really think this run can continue because I don't think the Phoenix Suns have peaked yet. Devin Booker is still scoring average of 25 points. I think that will improve. Chris Paul is just not scoring at all. He's just assisting everyone. I think once it comes to the playoffs, he'll be having a lot more of the shots as well. And I really like the DeAndre Ayton piece that you mentioned. I mean, this is similar to what Chris Paul did to Blake Griffin at the Clippers, right? I mean, lob up the ball, get him good baskets, and a career is made. And I think that's what he did for Blake Griffin, and I think that's what he's doing for DeAndre Ayton because Ayton took a little bit of while to settle in at the start of the season. He was not having the best start to the season. Phoenix Suns were lying somewhere low, 7th, 8th position, and they slowly rose up to the 4th, sat there for a long time, and then now suddenly jumped up the table to the second spot. So I really see a lot of upside still for this team, despite them sitting so high up in the table. And I really think they can really challenge the top guys. Lakers, I think, are still the strongest team, but I think Phoenix Suns are really there.
Well, I tell you what, if Lakers don't get AD back, Phoenix can really give them a run for their money if they face off in the playoffs. Unlikely because I think both will finish in the same half, which is the upper half of the table. But at some point, if they do face each other without AD, I think Phoenix can give them a run for their money because they'll really stretch the Lakers' depth with depth of their own, Phoenix. And it's going to be a problem because the Lakers gave up a lot in their transition, and it looked like on paper they've bolstered big time. But then Marc Gasol turned out to be, well, not that good anymore, as good as he was in Toronto's championship season. He's quite frankly been a flop of a move, honestly. And then they gave away Dwight Howard, and then they gave away JaVale McGee, and now they have AD out. That's all three big men from the championship team, right? Who do they have to replace? Marc Gasol, who's largely been hapless and has had fitness concerns of late, and then they've got Montrezl Harrell, who, as much as we love the hustle, he's kind of like the Kelly Oubre of big men, where there's a lot of hustle, there's a lot of energy and hype, but sometimes size is size, and you get outplayed. It happened to him against Jokic, who destroyed him last season in the playoffs. And it's going to happen again against guys like Ayton, or for that matter, even Saric, who will flip him inside out and score on him, right? So I think Phoenix will give the Lakers a run for their money if AD is out. But if AD is out, I don't think we should be talking too much about the Lakers anyway. But that's how deep the Phoenix Suns team goes, right? That we haven't even really mentioned Saric or Crowder that much. Yeah. And we've already talked about 7-8 players, and we haven't even mentioned those two guys, both of whom have been pretty effective from the three and at bumping bodies in the paint. So this is a very exciting team. I'm just going to reserve bold predictions until I see them once in the postseason, because I put a lot of faith in a Phoenix team once in the postseason, and they just stunk it up. Not going to do that again without proof.
All right, so that was the Phoenix Suns. We'll continue to track their progress. I really hope that they set second in the table or third in the table. It's really fun team to watch, and I'll be banking on them. If they're playing the Clippers, I know whom I'm supporting. It's an early season call. And all right, so that's the Phoenix Suns, and we'll talk tomorrow.
Sure thing, man. Cheers.
Bye.